Alright guys, I am so lost for video ideas, so today we are making another tier list video, and we are going to be ranking every single ability in Tower Defense X, based on how useful they are pretty much. So this is the artillery one. That's very useful. You can manually target any what's it called? Any enemy you want, really. It's not as good as the helicopter ones, I'd say, but it's still a pretty useful ability for the artillery. It pretty much makes the artillery what it is. Let's have the airstrike. The airstrike is pretty useful. It has a 2000 damage explosion for a pretty cheap price, honestly, which is really good, but not necessarily like game changing or anything. It's just there to help you out during the mid game, and that's about it. The APC is usable. It's not really required for anything like these are. It's not going to change the game as much. The Call to Arms is pretty game changing, just another support ability, making your towers deal 30% more damage, which is really nice. The Crowd Ranger Grenade is pretty mid. Okay, I don't think there's any abilities that's like do not use. It's like, I don't know if I'll end up putting anything in F, but yeah, the Crowd Ranger Grenade is pretty mid. Crowd Ranger in of itself is just a bad tower, and the ability itself is also not that noticeable. The Encore ability for EDJ is very useful, but it's not as useful as Call to Arms, I'd say, because this is only an extra like 20% fire rate, and this is an extra 30% damage, which is a lot better than this. And EDJ, you don't really need to use the ability most of the time. Usually you can just kind of leave the EDJ there and let it do its thing while you micro other things. But the EDJ ability is still useful, very useful. The Flame Trooper ability is usable. Honestly, it feels like whenever you use it, there's not that much of a DPS spike compared to when you just let it be on random targeting doing its basic attack. It's kind of, I feel like it could use a bit of a buff. But yeah, the Flame Trooper ability is kind of just there. I feel like the attack of the Flame Trooper itself is just really good AoE already. The drone ability is very useful, just being able to unstealth things very easily for a pretty big area for a very long amount of time. The drone ability is very useful, but not game changing like a Call to Arms or something. The freaking okay, I think the stealth ability on the Ghost is actually so useless though. Like even more, honestly, even more than the damn Crowd Ranger Grenade. You're just wasting time by using it because the boss attacks are just gonna attack your towers anyway. It's like stealthing your towers does not do that much, especially when you have to micro it like this. It's just too much effort. Just do not use it. The Reboot Systems ability on the Golden Juggernaut is very useful because Golden Juggernaut is one of the best towers in the game, and just being able to unstun him instantly is mainly useful for things like killing the Golden Eradicator Mark IC before he rages on wave 170 in endless mode, or keeping your Golden Juggernauts alive in the fight. They can heal 1000 HP with this ability as well, and also just generally the unstun is really good for impossible maps too. That's just a really good ability. The Golden Mine Layer stun is very useful. It's able to stun bosses for 1 second, which is really nice. It's honestly close to being game changing, but I feel like the Slammer and Golden Ranger just do this ability better due to the Golden Mine Layer having to like charge this thing up. The crossbow, I'd say, is pretty useful. It pretty much is similar to the artillery ability in my opinion, just kind of giving you the ability to micro your Golden Mine Layer shots instead of just having them all auto in one place. The Golden Ranger Grenade is a very useful ability. I wouldn't say necessarily as useful as the Slam. Actually, would I say? I mean, it is a stun ability. Stun abilities are really good. I guess that's pretty game changing. I'll put the stun abilities all in game changing because stunning bosses is just a really nice utility. All of the helicopter abilities, the follow player is pretty useful, the pursuit is pretty useful, and all of the helicopter abilities are all just pretty useful in the same tier. The Icebreaker Ice Shard is pretty game changing just because of the fact that you could freeze any boss using this. if you're not really using it for that, it's still kind of a useful ability, but thanks to being able to freeze literally any boss in the game, that's pretty game-changing. The Icebreaker Snowstorm, on the other hand, is kind of just usable. It kind of feels like the Flame Trooper one. You kind of just can add extra freezing, and when the Icebreaker already does a good amount of freezing, it kind of just feels similar to the Flame Trooper one. The John Axe is pretty useful for impossible maps, pretty useful for events. It's a really good ability, not as good as this stuff though. The John Rage is very useful. It takes a ton of micro to use, but a 50% damage buff is really high. I'm not gonna lie to you. By the way, these aren't in order. I'm not saying like Call of Arms is better than these, even though it kind of is. Well, actually, yeah, they're all meant to be on like the same tier. Okay, this is S, this is A. I'm not saying like this is better than this or this is better than this. Okay. Anyway, the Laser Gunner's stun ability is pretty useful. I mainly say that just because of like impossible maps, you could just have another stun on top of the things you're already doing. So that kind of adds some utility to the Laser Gunner, which is nice. The stealth sensor on the Laser Gunner is usable. It kind of feels in the realm of like these kind of like AoE attacks here. But this is, I'd say, a bit more useful just because it does actually have an unstealthing thing. It's too bad that the Ghost Drone just kind of outclasses it now. The Medic Crits ability is very useful. It takes a lot of micro, but it can increase your DPS a lot. And I feel like when Refractor gets released, when we have more high value things to crits like that, that's going to be a really good combo to have. And the Uber is also very useful, mainly for events we've seen recently. Other than that, Ubering towers usually isn't too profitable, but it's still really useful. The AP Rounds ability is pretty, would I say useful or usable? I guess usable, because it is kind of just on this one tower that I haven't seen that many people use. Then again, I don't use the top path mobster that much, so you guys can correct me if I'm wrong on that. But, I don't know, it just doesn't feel as important as like an airstrike or these to me. Just because I don't use top path mobster probably. Anyway, the mobster bounty ability though, the mobster bounty ability is, it's useful, it's useful. It's pretty situational because most of the time you can't use it. It's more just like an endless in events, but in those it is going to help you pretty good amount. It does take a hell ton of micro though for what it does. I don't really like that part of it. The Operator Humvee is kind of usable. It feels similar to like the Commander APC. They're kind of in the same realm of just like, yeah, I could just add some extra DPS, sure. Is this the normal Ranger Grenade? Normal Ranger Grenade? That's pretty mid, not gonna lie. Then again, I don't use the Ranger that much, but I feel like the grenade abilities are all just kind of bad, except for this one because it stuns bosses, which is really nice. The Shotgunner heal is pretty mid. For how much micro you have to do, your towers are gonna be dead already. Just using the medic outclasses that so insanely hard. I mean, this is for 450 coin tower, so I mean, you can't expect much, but it is really helpful for, I guess, the lower levels, but then again, I feel like it just won't do that much. The Unstun Shotgunner ability, however, I really think that's useful. Honestly, it could be very useful too. Nah, I'll say useful, because I use this ability a lot during events. Whenever bosses have like stun attacks and they spam those, I really like to use the Shotgunner Unstun. Especially on XWMs, because it's able to unstun XWMs, which normally cannot get those friendly buffs, which is really nice. So that unstun ability, I'd say, is a lot more useful than the heal ability. The Grand Slam is pretty game-changing as well, just on kind of... It's a bit higher than these because it's a 1.5 second stun and not a 1 second stun. But yeah, the Grand Slam ability just changed the game with that boss stunning. I know the Golden Ranger Grenade came first with its stunning, but not as many people used that. It's kind of just harder to use, I don't know how. The Flare Gun ability is pretty, it's honestly usable. It's on kind of, I feel like a slightly, just unstealthing stuff is a good ability to have, but it's definitely the worst out of all the unstealthing abilities. We have the Laser Gunner unstealth. We have the Ghost unstealth. The Ghost is definitely the best. But the Flare Gun's actually just kind of mid, because it has a charge up. It doesn't do damage. It's on Sniper. Sniper's a bad tower. So yeah, that's kind of how those go. The Toxic Blast ability is pretty game changing. Just being able to debuff the enemies for extra damage taken. That's a really nice utility to have. And the Warship Stealth Reveal is pretty useful, but I mean, it's kind of usable. By the time you have a freaking bottom path warship, bro, you should be covered on stealth by then. It's not really going to be used that many times. So that is how I would rank every single ability in Tower Defense X right now. Let me know what you guys think, and peace out, guys. Have a good day.